Dear learners, as we wrap up this transformative 12-week course on biodiversity conservation, I want to extend my heartfelt congratulations to each of you for your dedication and commitment to this vital subject. Over the weeks, we have navigated through the foundations, challenges, policies, strategies, and tools needed to address the biodiversity crisis. This journey has armed you with the knowledge and the skills to contribute meaningfully to biodiversity conservation in your personal and professional lives. Let us take a moment to reflect on the core themes of the course and how they empower us to make a difference. We actually began in week first by laying the foundation for understanding biodiversity. We explored its definition and the three critical levels: genetic, species, and the ecosystem diversity. We also identified threats to biodiversity, habitat loss, pollution, climate change, and our exploitation, and acknowledged India's status as a mega biodiverse nation, highlighting the country's global importance in conservation. In week second, we explored conservation strategies, including in situ conservation, such as national parks and wildlife sanctuary, and ex situ conservations, such as zoos, botanical gardens. We also studied India's vast protected area network and transboundary issues that actually arise in biodiversity management, encompassing the need for collaboration across nations to protect shared ecosystem. In week third, took us deeper into conservation, focus on the IUCN strategies of threats which help classify species at risk of extinction. We also studied captive breeding and reintroduction program, critical tools for species recovery. Further, we explored India's diverse biogeographic zones such as Himalayas, Western Ghats, and Sundarbans, and their unique ecological and cultural significance. In week 4th, we dug into biodiversity hotspots, regions of extraordinary biodiversity that are also highly threatened. India is home to 4 of the world biodiversity hotspots: the Himalayas, the Indo-Burma, Western Ghats, and Sundaland. These regions are rich in endemic species and contribute significantly to the planet's ecological balance. Thus, protecting these hotspots is crucial for preserving global biodiversity. In week 5, we turned into India's legal framework for biodiversity conservation, focusing on the Biological Diversity Act, which empowers local communities to conserve biodiversity while ensuring the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits. We also explored the National Biodiversity Action Plan, which aligns national efforts with global biodiversity goal for 2050. In week 6, we shifted to the global stage, studying international biodiversity policies and treaties like Convention on Biological Diversity and its protocol, the Nagoya Protocol on Access and Benefit Sharing, and Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety provided insights into ethical practices and safeguards in the use of the genetic resources and biotechnology. In week 7, we introduced us to the protocols and sustainable use of the biodiversity. We explored strategies for monitoring biodiversity under the CBD, ensuring fair access to resources and mitigation environmental impacts. This week's underscored the importance of actually ethical resources management for achieving long-term sustainability. In week 8, we studied Aichi biodiversity targets which guide global conservation efforts and their connection to the international organizations like UNESCO and Ramsar Convention. We also discussed practical strategies for achieving these targets, emphasizing global collaboration. In week 9, we actually focus on the societal aspects of the biodiversity. These include critical roles of the women and local communities in conservation efforts, as well as the ecosystem services biodiversity provides, such as clean water, fertile soil, and climate regulation. We also examined how biodiversity is essential for cultural, spiritual, and economic well-being. In week 10, we explored practical tools for conservation, sampling methods for birds, mammals, and habitats, as well as the use of the camera traps, provided us with modern techniques for monitoring wildlife and gathering data to inform conservation strategies. Week 11 introduces us the importance of the herbariums in preserving plant biodiversity. Herbariums serves as a repositories of botanical knowledge, aiding research, conservation and education. We also learn field techniques for plant preservation and the careful care required to maintain these invaluable collections. Finally, in week 12, we address emerging challenges and sustainable practices. We explored how actually urban heat islands impact biodiversity and examined strategies for biodiversity enhancement in urban setting. Modern tools like RS and GIS technologies were highlighted as critical in biodiversity mapping and planning. We concluded with discussion on sustainable practices and initiatives like Mission Life, which advocates for eco-conscious living. I can say throughout this course, we have learned that biodiversity is foundation of life on earth. It sustains ecosystems, supports human well-being and provides invaluable resources. Yet, biodiversity is under immense threat from human activities. Conservation is not just an environmental challenge, it is an ethical responsibility and necessity for our survival. This course has actually emphasized that everyone has a role in conservation, whether you are a researcher, policymaker, educator, or concerned citizen, your action can make a difference. Protecting biodiversity requires collective efforts, informed decision makings, and willingness to adopt sustainable practices. As we conclude this course, I encourage you to reflect on how you can apply what you have actually learned. Small actions such as reducing waste, supporting local conservation initiatives, and spreading awareness can have a ripple effect. You have the opportunity. Engage in policy making, scientific research, or community-driven projects to protect biodiversity. This course is just the beginning of our journey as a steward of the biodiversity. The challenges ahead are complex, but with the knowledge, collaboration, and determination, we can achieve meaningful change. In closing, I want to thank you for your commitment and participation in this course. Your willingness to learn about biodiversity conservation is a witness to your dedication to creating a better future. Remember, biodiversity is not just about preserving wildlife, it is about protecting the very system that sustains life on Earth. Together, we can ensure that a future generation inherit a planet that is rich in life, beauty, and ecological harmony. Thank you, and I wish you the best in your efforts to safeguard biodiversity and contribute a sustainable world.